Hello, I'm Constance Johnson, otherwise known as Dr. J. I am one of the teaching staff at International Association of Metaphysics, and one of my topics that is very dear to my heart is ancient wisdom. If any of you have ever had a dream in your life that came from another place, another time, obviously not this one, perhaps you've experienced something like that, as I did when I was just a child. And this led me to want to know more. One of my dreams was about ancient Egypt. As you can see by my shirt, it says Guide of Egypt. I am not the Guide of Egypt, but I went on a tour, again, at age 69. The reason I went is because books can only take you so far in your experiences and in your learning process. There's nothing like going to the place and meeting people, hearing them talk about their land. It has been my experience. I'm a librarian. I read a lot. And it's been my experience in researching ancient cultures that whenever their culture became victim to another culture that came in and conquered them, they usually brought a religion with them. When they brought this new faith with them, it doesn't match the ones that are there. What better way to conquer another nation than to take their belief system from them? So those that were not willing to capitulate and give up their faith, they were killed. So the ones that were smart said, I give, and it went underground. It always goes underground. They can't completely extinguish a belief system, especially when the beautiful parts of it, the good parts, the strong parts. There is a certain well-known church that used to go around and they would do the same thing. What they would do is they would take the gods of the local people and turn them into either a demon, which is something to be feared and abhorred, or a saint. This has happened so many times. And they would build a church on top of where a temple or a holy space had been. In Egypt, they were conquered many times. They are such an ancient culture that the archaeologists are very conservative in their estimates when they say these are 5,000-year-old ruins. It's much, much older. There are geologists, there are scientists, and pseudoscientists that estimate 15,000, 50,000, or maybe even 80,000. And when you look at a span of time like that, what does time really matter? What lasts? There's two things. The stones that are left out of their sacred places, which to the ancient Egyptians was their tombs and their temples. The marketplaces were made out of temporary materials like mud and some kind of building materials made out of mud with straw in it, I guess. They didn't last. The other thing that lasts is belief. The people keep in their hearts who they are. This is part of who they are as a people. And the guide that took us on this tour told us that ancient Egyptian words did not die. They transmuted as different ones came in and conquered them. The first was the Persians, and then came the Greeks, then came the Romans. The Romans also brought Christianity, and then came the Muslims. Their latest one, they have embraced so much that they are a Muslim nation. And there are many beliefs in the Muslim worldview that match the ancient worldview. I have no idea because I am not a Muslim and I don't know any Muslims. Not enough to discuss their religion in depth. So when you go and you start experiencing what comes from a long time ago, you will find, as I have, nothing is new under the sun. It's already been done before. And the reason it's been done before is this allows you to discover for yourself what is important. My own belief system comes from many cultures. I was born into the middle of America in the middle of the 20th century. My parents, my mother, was a Protestant. My father was an independent. He had his own thought of who God was, and he didn't go to churches. He didn't like the atmosphere. I found he was more devout than my mother. On his last days here, on his deathbed, he was making sure that I was doing the right thing. He didn't want me to make a bad choice. My mother, she wanted me to choose. She gave me a book of world religions when I went off to college. And she says, read all the chapters, pick one that you like, and go and do it. You've got to believe in God, and you don't have to do what I do. Pick one, do it, be it. So I'm somewhere in between those, and I think we all do, because you need to think about your belief system. And where are you going to get this? It comes from inside your own heart, your natural nature of who you are as a person. And it also, you're in an environment, you're stuck with today's culture. You have a family, you have a neighborhood, you have a tradition. And out of all of that, you are unique. In all of time, every one of us, God has made us unique. So studying these things, you can find parts that you find very intriguing. And some of them you want to adopt right away. Some of them, put them on the back shelf. And then there's others that is either clearly hogwash or just not for you. You don't believe in sacrificing doves in order to send a prayer to God, for example. That's a horrible idea. You would never do it. And you throw that out. However, putting a flower on the altar that you picked fresh this morning because it was the most beautiful, that might appeal to you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Somebody who belongs to a belief system that says no statuary, no flowers, no pictures, no idols. Well, they miss out on art. Art is a great way to express yourself to God. So ancient wisdom is wisdom that's held in a closet, like you're going to your grandmother's house and going up in the attic and finding a trunk and opening it and seeing the treasures that are inside. It's a way to discover yourself. It's a way to discover other parts of yourself that might have come from other lifetimes, if you have that as part of your own belief system or you're curious about it. Whether or not you believe in it, if it teaches you something that's valuable, you don't have to adopt it. What did you learn? That's what's important. So, as far as Egypt is concerned, I studied their hieroglyph system. Their hieroglyphs are picture writing. It's a very ancient form of language. Today, there's a culture that's still using picture writing, and that's the Chinese. It doesn't look like a picture to me, but when someone says, oh, this is a tree next to a house, now I can look at it and yeah, maybe. But to them, they see the picture in it. It has an idea in it, and it probably has a sound, because most picture writing became alphabetized where it was phonetic. And that way you could write something down, and someone 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, might be able to get some idea of what you are trying to record. Now, all you have to do is ask an archaeologist, what is the oldest thing that they found in a tomb in Egypt with writing on it? What's the very first writing? I think it's hilarious. It was tax receipts. The pharaoh had little chips of ivory with one little symbol on each, and they were like having to pay a ticket for income tax to the pharaoh. Pharaoh number one. You see how old tax is? That's a bad idea we don't care for, but it helps society maintain itself. So I guess we're kind of stuck with it until we can come up with a better idea. So in that, there's an esoteric side, the esoteric being hidden and being something of a higher nature. Now, Egypt was full of magic. Magic was not something that you go to a circus to watch someone pull a bunny out of a hat or bring flowers out of their shirt sleeve. It was real. It had to do with energy, natural energy and ways that you could capture this energy and do things to it and send it out in order to achieve a particular result. There was magic in use for the good of others, and there was magic in use for selfish ends. And the archaeologists have it. They have little pieces of, they're called ostraca. It's a busted piece of pottery, because paper, yeah, they invented paper, but paper was real expensive and most people couldn't write anyway. So you want to do something, you can take a little piece of busted pottery and scratch something on there that looks like a hieroglyph, and you know what it means. And there goes that's a prayer. And the prayer is to ask God to, if you're a woman, you want to have a kid, okay? You do that. And you do other things too. There's all kinds of things. They have long lists, even inside the step pyramid, not the big fancy one. This is a one that the outside looks like this, like going up a staircase. It's full. The walls and the ceilings are absolutely full of hieroglyphs, which are, most of them are, you could think of it in one way as a hymn or as a chant or as magic. They're reciting a chant that is supposed to have a particular end to take the Pharaoh from this world to the next one. And by the way, along with him, he is supposed to take care of all of his people, because to the Egyptians, the Pharaoh wasn't a human being. He was Egypt in a person. So there's all kinds of wonderful things to consider when you look at ancient cultures. There are many things to learn, and it will explain some of the things our own culture does that don't make any sense. There is another culture that I am very fascinated with, and you might be as well. And it is a huge smorgasbord. And that is Native American wisdom or belief systems. There's, I don't know how many kinds. There, you call them a tribe or you call them a people. I remember years ago I was researching this when I was working in a library, and one book said there were 70 different languages being spoken by the native peoples when Columbus got here. Now, nobody's as old as Columbus. I don't know how they figured that out, but that's impressive. That is a lot. How do they speak with each other? And how similar are their beliefs? And where are the differences? I'm sure there's people that have looked at that. To me, it was just interesting. Some of the artwork that I saw, which once again, like hieroglyphs, it's a picture, which is an idea, a picture. They would give me, shall we say, a memory with feelings is the best way to describe it. And you would see something you wouldn't even necessarily know. There's a place in Macon, Georgia, which has what's called an earth lodge. They think the floor of that's around 3,000 years old. It's a floor that was tamped down and smoothed out, and it was sculpted because it's made out of clay. And in the center was a fireplace, and it was a round building. And when you would come in, as you would come in, sitting right across from you is where the main guy, whoever he was, the shaman, the head of the chief, the head of the tribe, usually male, by the way. But anyway, women had their ceremonies too. And in there, it was a little platform where there was 3 seats right across from the door, with the fire pit in between, the most important, most elevated seats. The platform itself was shaped like a bird, and the bird's head was in profile, and where the eye should have been, it looked like something out of Star Trek. One of the, it's not a round eye. It comes like this, and then it goes up with a notch in it. And I would see that, and the Star Trek series was already out, so I'd seen those. I felt the similarity, but I didn't really connect it. And years later, I'm with my grandson and my daughter, my husband on a vacation, and we are over there in St. Augustine. There is a place where you can go where they have fort something or other, and it's a memorial to the native people that were there when the Spaniards came. And the building that they made to represent what a holy space would have been is just like our rooms. It's square. And the person that was the guide for us said, this is the holy space. And back in ancient times, you would have had to get on your hands and knees and crawl down a tunnel to get in there. And I'm thinking of the place in Macon, similar. And so we went in and they said, do you know what these pictures are on the walls? And I went, that is a turtle, that one's a fox. And they're going, how do you know that? I'm obviously not Native American. And I said, I've seen those designs before. Not in my dreams, but in a place in Macon, Georgia. The cultures are supposedly unrelated. Ha! That's all I have to say about that. They are so related. The bird with the eye that looks like a flying spacecraft is there. And so I said, but the place in Macon was round. And she said, oh, this originally would have been a round building. It's just easier to build a square one. So nothing gets forgotten. So don't ever worry about your own private personal ceremonies or the things that are precious to you getting lost, because they don't. What is important, I'm sure, Creator or God or whatever you call the Divine One, make sure that it stays here, because others need to partake of those feelings and emotions and the gift of life that it brings. So as you go through your own life, I am sure that you have been to places, you've met people from another land, and yet they have something that connects with you personally that doesn't make ordinary sense. It's not logical. And that is the spirit connection. And once again, I want to put in another plug for the I Am, because when you come to I Am meetings, when you take their classes, and when you do things together, you will find there is a fellowship there that goes beyond just sitting there and listening to someone talk up in the front while everybody snoozes in the back. It is alive. And we are making our history as we go. So it's important that you take time to put yourself into a space that you consider to be sacred, that you feel the presence of the Creator, because the Creator works through all of us, so that you can be at one with the Creator and be doing beautiful things here on earth that the earth needs so very badly right now. This is taking place, this video is being done in 2020. We've already been through months of COVID. Hundreds of thousands of people have died from it. And now there's protesting, riots, demonstrations going on for all kinds of reasons. And I know whenever there is change, because you can see it, the archaeologists have it. They have records like Troy. The city of Troy was destroyed 12 times, and they built it back because there's layers that goes down. There'll be a layer, you dig down, there's some carbon. It burnt. You dig down further, oh, there's certain kinds of pottery, and there's another layer of carbon. It burnt again. What brings us together? It's our love of God and love of self and love of family. And as you study these things, see yourself in them, because your ancestors were there at these places. Their ideas are alive in you and what you do today. So enjoy today and this wonderful opportunity to learn from some of the I Am teachers, and take time to join us. Doesn't require a whole lot of you, but you will receive a lot of benefit from it. Thank you.